Finally, after all this time, I finished my drawing. Oh man, but something's missing. Why does it look so plain? Oh, I know. No, I can't just do that for the 300th time. What it needs is a background. Like that, and that. There we go. Perfect. Yeah, no, this isn't gonna work. Hey there, I'm Parako and welcome to my silly little art channel. If you're interested in art tips, tutorials, challenges, fan art, or you just enjoy my art in general, feel free to stick around. And hey, maybe drop a like and subscribe if my channel seems like your type of thing. Okay, thanks! If you're anything like me, when it comes to creating a dynamic and immersive background, you struggle. And hey, I get it. After a little practice, drawing backgrounds on their own are fine and drawing characters on their own are fine, but it becomes a bit of an issue when you combine the two. Don't you worry, young soldier. Hope is not lost, for I've got you covered. Drawing backgrounds may seem difficult, but it's really all a matter of breaking it down. First of all, the single most important thing for any art project is generating an idea, something to look to for inspiration and to use as a sort of guide. Time and time again in my videos, I've recommended the use of things like references and mood boards to do so. That's why I believe the best way to organize your ideas is through the use of today's sponsor, Milanote. Milanote is a helpful tool designed for organizing creative projects. Think of it like an online canvas that helps you plan, brainstorm, and collaborate on ideas in a way that's user-friendly and visually pleasing. Here you can see me brainstorming what I want to draw in my final piece and planning out different angles and compositions. And I've created a mood board for this piece too. I'm pretty proud of it if I do say so myself. If you're anything like me, you will love Milanote. It is a tool made specifically for creatives like myself, and it allows you to organize your ideas in a way that makes sense to you. I personally have a very visual mind. I'm not the type that can just jot down a few words in a notebook and have it make sense. And so to be able to have all my inspiration, whether it be notes, images, videos, or tasks all in the same place, really streamlines my creative process. Not to mention the fact that Milanote includes over 100 built-in templates available for any and every type of creative project. I myself actually use their mood board template as a way to start my own. Milanote is the perfect tool for creative professionals, photographers, hobbyists, teams, animators, directors, all sorts of artists just like you and me. And when you're ready to collaborate with others and share your work, Milanote allows you to invite your team to gather important feedback. I actually invited a close friend of mine who is also an artist, and she gave me a bit of feedback on my design. Shout out to her if she's watching this, by the way. It's thanks to Milanote that I can confidently say that I'm prepared to create a piece that I'm happy with. It just makes the planning process so much easier and honestly way more fun. And trust me, when you guys try it out, you're gonna say the same thing. Finally, Milanote is available for free with absolutely no time limit, so go ahead and sign up for a free Milanote account using the link in the description below. Thank you so much again to Milanote for sponsoring this video. Now on to the rest of the process. Once you've got your idea and your references, you're set to begin your piece. I started out by having my brainstorm at hand, and I focused on a particular stock photo I found with the exact angle and perspective that I was hoping to recreate. Then I used Procreate's perspective feature to use as a sort of guideline. I added points to the ruler until it looked right, and using my reference as well, a reference, I began to sketch in my window, my countertops, and my ceiling and walls. Oh, and I did check, and this feature is also available on Ibis Paint. Don't worry, I didn't forget about you guys. It's set up kind of differently, but it's essentially the same thing. I'm sure other programs like Clip Studio Paint and even Medibang have it too, and so I've linked some tutorials in the description if you're interested. And as for traditional artists, I do believe there are actually perspective rulers specifically for this purpose that you can find pretty cheap online. But if not, I do have a solution for you that I'll go into in a little bit. Now, in this video, I am in fact drawing a room, which makes the perspective guidelines especially useful. However, even if you're drawing, say, a beach or a forest, you should definitely still use these guidelines to find the placement of your horizon line and other objects like trees, people, or buildings. There are, of course, simpler ways to achieve your background sketch. This is less of a drawing tutorial and more of a lighting and rendering tutorial, hence why it's more fit for digital artists rather than traditional. And so here's a bit of an easier way to achieve the same thing without having to deal with the confusing perspective rulers. I found this app, which I will link in the description, and I managed to use it to create a 3D model of what I wanted the kitchen to look like. And if you want to, it's super easy to just screenshot your model and trace it. Other stock images and online models of the environment you're looking for should also be widely available online. However, if you plan on posting or selling your art, I don't recommend tracing it from someone else's art without crediting the artist or asking for permission. Plus, it is good to keep in mind that you definitely will learn less from tracing an image than you will from learning to do it yourself. But at the end of the day, art is art, and as long as you're not stealing someone else's creation and selling it or claiming it as your own, it's all in the spirit of learning and fun. Side note, see that curtain that's flowing behind them? Yeah, I kind of goofed up there, because if the curtain is flowing in the wind, then there has to actually be wind, meaning the window behind them has to be open, but I forgot to draw the window open, so yeah. It's okay, let's just pretend the window has no glass, or like there's a mystery ghost living there, I don't know. I'm not gonna fix it, because art is about enjoying the process and embracing your mistakes anyway, and totally not because I am lazy. Anyway, after my background sketch was done, I sketched in my 2 characters, remembering to flip the canvas along the way, and I was all ready to color. So, for pieces like this, it's really best to just go ahead with your values first before your colors to get an idea of the lighting of the piece and where all the dark and light points will be. I started off by coloring the whole thing in grey, and then I put plain white down where all my light points are. My light source was the window in the background, and so everything directly facing the window will be illuminated. Remember that hair is also translucent, and so when the light hits it, said light will shine through and be visible on the other side. After that, I put in my darkest points, and for this, it's pretty much the opposite of what you did for the lighting. Try your best to imagine what will be illuminated by the light source. It may even help to make a quick sketch from the POV of your light source, and whatever is blocked from the light will be in darkness. The key with lighting is just a combination of 3 things: visualization, referencing, and practice. I also airbrushed white in the general light area of the piece and black in the general dark areas. Anyway, once that was done, I could color everything the way I normally do. Afterwards, I set the value layer to hard light before lowering the opacity of my liner and slapping some gradient maps on there. If you're interested in more information on gradient maps and making your color schemes look interesting, check out these 2 videos on my channel. Links in the description. I also added various layers of pale oranges and yellows on the blend mode's overlay and soft light to really get that warm feeling I was going for. There is no right and wrong to this part, just experiment and do whatever feels good to you. Anyway, once my colors were all ready to go, it was time to render. Now, despite popular request, I haven't quite made a rendering tutorial yet, although I do briefly go into it in this video here. Like I said, this is less of a drawing tutorial and more of a guide on the lighting and composition of atmospheric pieces. However, if an in-depth rendering tutorial is something you guys are interested in, please let me know in the comments below. I actually get a lot of comments asking how to render or what rendering even is. Personally, I define the rendering portion of my art as what takes it from a colored sketch to a final piece. So when I say I'm rendering a drawing, I'm basically saying that I'm going in with various brushes and smudge tools and, well, cleaning it up a little. I go over my sketch and more or less refine what I already have. This entails little things like blending out the lighting on curved surfaces like clothing and faces, drawing in some darker lines in between different parts to separate them, and adding things like rim lighting or specks of dust. I guess it is pretty easy to be confused when artists like me just throw around the word rendering and expect everyone to understand. You can try to think of it as refinement or like a very extensive cleanup stage. Here you can see a screen recording of me rendering specifically Tomoko's hands, so you can see the process firsthand and kind of get what I mean. One important thing I do throughout this process, and you may see it popping up in the screen recording, is color picking. When I want to color, I color pick all the time. Most times, I do not get any new colors that aren't in the original sketch. This helps me stick to a smaller and more cohesive color palette. Again, I haven't yet made an in-depth rendering tutorial, but there are many you can find online. I've linked some in the description too, so feel free to check them out. Also, this is really important, arguably just as important as flipping the canvas. It's another thing I've gone into in a few of my other videos, and that is to check your values. I've already shown how to do this. Just add a layer above your art, which is either completely white or completely black, and pure gray works too. Then set your blend mode to saturation. I like to keep a value layer above my art throughout the process for when my lighting just doesn't look right or when I'm adding or adjusting my shadows. It allows you to really see your lighting, which is super important for creating an atmospheric background piece. Here you can see I noticed the lighting on Tomoko should have been a little bit darker, and so I added a multiply layer and darkened up her entire right side, as well as some other parts of the background I felt should have been darker. Anyway, rendering is a long and extensive process, so I don't really have much else to say here. Just sit back and listen to some elevator music while watching the speed paint. I mean, most of you are like drawing or eating or doing chores while watching anyway, right? If you actually are watching this while doing anything else, let me know in the comments, because like I don't know anyone that does that, myself included. Your attention span is great, my friend. Once rendering is finally done, it's time to make it pretty. If the sketch was like making cupcake batter and the rendering was like baking and icing the cupcakes, then this would be the cherry on top. I started off by doing my favorite thing ever, which is adding little white specks of dust in the line where the light is. I don't know why, but it makes it look so awesome. After that, I added some little streaks of light coming from the same direction. I feel like, although subtle, it's a touch that really brings the light source to life because it shows it interacting with the objects in the scene and then creating those streaks, if that makes sense. Then I adjusted the saturation and brightness. I made it more saturated and bright, and that is because my iPad screen shows images to be a little more saturated than they are. And since my art is more often than not viewed on a phone with a smaller screen, I want to make sure the saturation is how I'd like it to be. And after that, I added a hard light layer, which is mostly orangish greenish, and then I airbrushed a pale yellow where the light source is, just to dramatize the light a little more. I love to add camera focus, or well, unfocus, and so I did that by selecting Gaussian blur and then selecting the pencil feature, so I can just brush on where I want the focus to blur. I didn't really have any rhyme or reason to this, I just did it wherever. You can see the rest of what I did in the screen recording here, but I also used the chromatic aberration feature as well as adding noise. Again, both of these are available in like every drawing or video editing program. And yes, that includes Ibis Paint. Finally, I signed it in 3 different spots and... that is my piece completely finished. This took about like 11 hours because of the extensive nature of my art process. I know that doing a full piece like this can feel daunting and confusing and impossible, but I promise that with practice, it'll begin to come a little easier. I know you probably hear that all the time, but that's because it's true. Did my advice help you and change the way you'll draw in the future, or do you totally disagree and think I'm a buffoon with no idea what I'm doing? No matter what your stance is, even if you aren't an artist at all, I encourage you to drop your thoughts in the comments down below. That'll help me make my next video even better for you all, and it'll hopefully benefit you guys too. And the best part is that it's free and only takes 2 clicks. What a deal! You should definitely follow me on Instagram, where I'll post finished pieces, works in progress, and possibly even open commissions in the future. If you like, you can buy me a coffee from this link or send a super thanks in the comment section down below if you wish to support me with a quick donation. And don't forget to go ahead and sign up for a free Milanote account using the link in the description below with no time limit. I promise you guys are gonna love it. And thank you so much again to Milanote for sponsoring this video. All that aside, I wish you all the very best of luck on your art journey. I promise you're gonna do great. Remember to drink some water, get some rest, have a very hopeful day or night wherever in the world you may be, and happy drawing!